full journey of Larry Page. We left Larry Page adrift at Stanford, searching for that world-changing idea. The mid-90s web was a digital Wild West, an explosion of information with no sheriff, no map. Search engines of the day were useless, ranking results by how often a word appeared, burying gold beneath mountains of garbage. For a mind like Page's, this wasn't just inefficient. It was intellectually offensive. The spark came not from commerce, but from academia. Page considered exploring the mathematical structure of the web as a vast graph. His advisor, Terry Winograd, gave him the best advice he'd ever received: pursue it. Page became fascinated by the web's backlinks, the links pointing to a page. He saw them as citations, an academic peer review system built by the web itself. If he could count and qualify these links, he could measure a page's true authority. He called the project Backrub, and it needed a partner. Enter Sergey Brin, a brilliant, similarly headstrong polymath who jumped from project to project. The scale and ambition of Backrub hooked him. Brin recalled, "I talked to lots of research groups. And this was the most exciting project, both because it tackled the web, which represents human knowledge, and because I liked Larry." Together, in Page's dorm room, they built a machine. They stacked cheap computers, pulling parts from towers to create a crawling, indexing beast that choked Stanford's network. Their algorithm, dubbed PageRank, was the beating heart of it all. By early 1997, they were tracking over 75 million URLs. And they realized they hadn't just built a research tool. "We realized that we had a querying tool," Page said. "It gave you a good overall ranking." Here is a quick look at the key events of Google's founding. The turning point: 1995-1998. 1995 to 1996. The Backrub project begins. Page and Brin meet at Stanford. They start Backrub, a research project to map the web's link structure. Their breakthrough is the PageRank algorithm. 1997 to 1998, from prototype to company. They register the domain google.com, a play on Google. They get a pivotal $100,000 check from Sun Microsystems co-founder Andy Bechtolsheim. Google Inc. is officially founded in September 1998. The first office is a rented garage in Menlo Park, California. Then, the moment of truth. They put a simple search box online. Traffic began to tick up, first from campus, then beyond. Pretty soon, we had 10,000 searches a day, Page remembered. And we figured, maybe this is real. They needed a better name. Backrub wouldn't do. They chose Google, a playful misspelling of Google, the number 1 followed by 100 zeros. It was a promise to organize the infinite. Now, they needed fuel. In a legendary Silicon Valley meeting, they demoed their engine for Sun Microsystems co-founder Andy Bechtolsheim. He didn't need a business plan. He saw the future and wrote a check for $100,000 on the spot made out to Google, Inc., a company that, legally, did not yet exist. With that check in hand, uncashed for weeks as they scrambled to set up a legal entity, they traded the dorm room for a garage. In September 1998, Google Inc. was born. The mission was set in stone: to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. The engineer and the mathematician were now CEOs. The search for a thesis was over. The construction of an empire had begun. In a messy garage, with a server built from Lego and a carpet of bright blue, they made a rule: don't be evil. They were building more than a company. They were building a cathedral for the mind of the world. And they were just getting started. Part 1. The Hook, a quiet earthquake. In the fall of 2024, a federal judge issued a 286-page ruling that shook the foundations of the digital age. The company deemed a monopoly was Google. And at the heart of that trillion-dollar empire stood a man who had long since vanished from the public eye: Larry Page. The creator of the tool that organizes all human knowledge had become one of its most elusive subjects. This is not just the story of a search engine. It's the story of a painfully shy boy from Michigan who dreamed of inventing things, who built a cathedral of code that reshaped reality, and who, in doing so, summoned the very giants of regulation and scrutiny he once despised. It's a journey from a messy childhood room strewn with computer parts to the pinnacle of global power, and finally, to a silent retreat. How did the man who wanted to change the world end up hiding from it? Part 2. The Seed, Struggle and Origins 1973 to 1995. Lawrence Edward Page was born on March 26, 1973, in Lansing, Michigan, into a world buzzing with nascent technology. His father was a computer science pioneer, his mother a programming instructor. Their divorce when Larry was 8 cast a long shadow, but the home remained a chaotic workshop of curiosity. At 6, he mastered his father's Exidy Sorcerer computer, becoming the first kid in his school to submit a word-processed assignment. He took everything apart, driven by a need to understand. From a very early age, he recalled, I also realized I wanted to invent things. This inventive spirit found focus at the University of Michigan. He built a Lego inkjet plotter, proposed a campus-wide personal rapid transit system, and led the university's solar car team. Yet, beneath the engineer's confidence lurked a persistent search for a truly world-changing thesis. In 1995, he arrived at Stanford's PhD program, adrift and unsatisfied, moving from project to project without settling. The struggle was not one of poverty, but of purpose. In a world of academics, he yearned to build something that mattered on a planetary scale. That yearning would soon collide with the exploding, chaotic universe of the World Wide Web. Part 3. The Spark, Turning Point 1995 to 1998. The turning point was a deceptively simple idea: treat the web as a giant graph of citations. With encouragement from his advisor, Terry Winograd, Page began a project nicknamed Backrub to map the links between websites. He was joined by a brilliant, equally headstrong Russian-born student, Sergey Brin. Together, they developed PageRank, an algorithm that could measure a page's importance by the quality of links pointing to it. Their dorm rooms became makeshift data centers, crammed with cheap hardware, straining Stanford's network. By August 1996, their search tool was live on Stanford's servers. Traffic grew. Pretty soon, we had 10,000 searches a day, Page said. And we figured, maybe this is real. But reality required money. The pivotal moment came in 1998. After a demo, Sun Microsystems co-founder Andy Bechtolsheim immediately wrote a $100,000 check to Google, Inc., a company that did not yet legally exist. For 2 weeks, the check sat uncashed, a tangible symbol of their leap into the unknown. They incorporated, rented a garage in Menlo Park for $1,700 a month, and officially began. The PhD was abandoned. The mission was now absolute: to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Part 4. The Engine, Building the Business Empire, 1998-2004. The early Google was a blend of childlike whimsy and ruthless engineering precision. Page, as CEO, was intensely hands-on, obsessed with speed down to the millisecond. He famously tried to fire all project managers in 2001, believing engineers shouldn't be led by non-technical staff. This chaotic genius needed scaling. Under pressure from investors, Page reluctantly stepped aside as CEO in 2001, handing the reins to seasoned executive Eric Schmidt. It was a painful but necessary maturation. The empire expanded relentlessly. The IPO in August 2004 turned Page, at 30, into a billionaire. Key acquisitions followed, most notably Android in 2005 for $50 million, a deal Page pursued passionately, sometimes without even informing Schmidt. This move would eventually place Google's software in billions of pockets worldwide. The company was no longer just a search box. It was becoming the central nervous system of the internet, with tentacles in advertising, AdWords, video, YouTube, and mobile operating systems. Part 5. The Summit, Rise to Dominance 2004 to 2011. The 2000s witnessed Google's ascent to ubiquity. By 2010, Android had overtaken Apple in market share, achieving global dominance. Google's search market share hovered around 90% in many regions, making it the default gateway to human knowledge. In April 2011, Page returned to the CEO role, signaling the founders renewed control. Schmidt tweeted, "Adult supervision no longer needed." Page reorganized the company, instilling a zero tolerance for fighting policy and launching a sweeping design overhaul called Project Kennedy to unify Google's aesthetic. He pushed a 10x mentality, demanding products that were 10 times better, not incrementally improved. This philosophy fueled moonshots, self-driving cars, Google Glass, and balloon-powered internet. The 2011 acquisition of Motorola Mobility for $12.5 billion was a stark, defensive move in the brutal patent wars against Apple and Microsoft. Google was now a behemoth, but Page's vision was straining against the confines of a single corporate entity. The stage was set for his most audacious restructuring yet. Part 6. The Reckoning, Conflict and Scrutiny, 2011 to 2019. With great scale came great conflict. The very dominance Page engineered made Google a target. Antitrust investigations, which began in Europe, slowly tightened around the company. Page, who once hated the idea of ads, now presided over the world's largest advertising machine. Regulators argued this success was built on anti-competitive practices. A former Google PR person described Page as having major trust issues and few social graces, traits that did not serve him well in the court of public opinion. Internally, the relationship with CEO Eric Schmidt had been a tense triumvirate, with the founders ultimately holding the power. Privacy scandals, like the accidental data collection via Street View, eroded public trust. The company's famous, "Don't be evil," motto began to ring hollow for critics who saw it as a monopolist. Page's response was not to fight in the open but to redesign the battlefield itself. In 2015, he announced the creation of Alphabet Inc., a holding company where Google would become just one subsidiary. The move was seen by some as a clever retirement plan, allowing Page to focus on futuristic, other bets, while distancing himself from Google's daily controversies. Part 7. The Private Self, Personal Life and Philanthropy. Away from the boardroom, Page cultivated a fiercely private life. In 2007, he married Lucinda Southworth, a research scientist and sister of a model. They had 2 children and lived in a historic Spanish colonial revival home in Palo Alto. His philanthropy, like the man himself, was opaque. The Carl Victor Page Memorial Foundation, named for his father, grew to hold billions but for years directed almost all its grants to donor-advised funds, a black box that shielded its ultimate beneficiaries. Only recently has the foundation stepped into the sunlight, revealing significant grants for climate change causes. Page has also invested in futuristic ventures like flying car startups and AI-driven manufacturing. He is a transhumanist thinker, co-founding Singularity University and pondering how technology can create abundance and shorten the workweek. For a man who built the world's most powerful information tool, he remains one of its most closely guarded secrets. Part 8. The Legacy, Invention and Its Shadow, 2019 to Present. On December 3, 2019, Page and Brin announced they were stepping down from all executive roles at Alphabet, handing full control to Sundar Pichai. The Alphabet experiment received mixed reviews. Its other bets generated less than 0.5% of total revenue, but it embodied Page's belief in funding ambitious, long-term moonshots. His legacy is fundamentally dual. He is the co-architect of a tool that democratized information, fueled innovation, and became as essential as electricity. Yet, that same tool is now the subject of landmark monopoly rulings. Page was haunted by the story of Nikola Tesla, the brilliant inventor who died in obscurity because he couldn't commercialize his visions. He vowed not to be Tesla'd, and he succeeded spectacularly. But in achieving commercial dominance, he invited the very regulatory and societal backlash that now defines the era of big tech. His legacy is not just Google, but the entire debate about power, privacy, and innovation in the 21st century. Part 9. The Quiet Visionary Boy. So, who is Larry Page? He is the quiet boy in a Michigan basement, taking apart the world to see how it works. He is the graduate student who saw a graph where others saw chaos. He is the reluctant CEO who built an empire and then redesigned it to escape its weight. He is the billionaire philanthropist who guards his giving as closely as his privacy. And he is the monopolist in the crosshairs of history. His story is a testament to the power of a single, obsessive idea, that the world's information should be organized. That idea changed everything. It connected billions, created untold wealth, and redefined human capability. But it also concentrated unimaginable power, challenging the very democracies it serves. Larry Page's journey reminds us that invention is not enough. It must be paired with stewardship. As he recedes into silence, the echoes of his creation continue to shape our lives, our laws, and our future. The search for balance in the world he built is now our collective responsibility. The final page of his story is still being written, not by him, but by all of us who type a question into the box he created.